Welcome, friends, to NorthernPiperMN, the podcast where we slow down, light up, and explore the rich world of pipe culture, tobacco, tools, and the stories that go with them. I'm your host, Andrew. I'm coming to you from my living room next to a cozy fireplace, looking out the window at the field beyond and the frost-covered trees. Today we're taking a long, relaxed look ahead at what's coming for 2026 in the pipe tobacco world. So grab a cup of coffee, find a comfortable chair, and let's get rolling. So what's brewing in 2026? A few trends I've been watching, both from the community and from retailers. There's a revitalization of classic blends. There's new house blends from boutique blenders and aromatic innovations that don't smell like candy, but focus on craftsmanship. First, there's talk in the forums and in some tobacco shops that older favorites, blends many thought that were discontinued, are either being revived or reworked under new labels. One such is the Seattle Pipe Club's Plum Pudding Hogshead, and a few others, which will be produced by Cornell and Deal. And that's exciting because it means that heritage styles are returning. Classic Virginias, traditional English blends, and Balkan-inspired mixtures. Second, smaller blenders are stepping into the spotlight. These artisan combinations, like dark fired Kentucky with Virginia, subtle fruit casing, or new Oriental forward Balkan interpretations. These aren't your supermarket aromatics. They're a curated experience. And third, aromatics themselves are evolving. Instead of big candy toppings, you'll see more natural essence aromatics. Think maple, light spice, chai, and even barrel-aged notes from real bourbon. These kinds follow the trend of quality over gimmick, and I think it's a healthy shift for the hobby. We'll touch more next on specific blends that embody these ideas. Now, before we move on, we've got to talk about something that doesn't get enough respect these days, and that's codger blends. When people hear the term codger blend, they sometimes think it means outdated or boring, but the truth is, these blends have stuck around for decades for one simple reason: they work. They're affordable, forgiving, easy to pack, easy to light, and they're consistent from pouch to pouch. For beginners especially, codger blends are often the best classroom you can ask for. So you might be asking, what exactly is a codger blend? They're typically burly forward tobaccos, sometimes with a light aromatic casing, and sometimes completely natural. They're meant to be smoked all day, not analyzed to death. They don't bite easily, unless you over puff, and they don't demand perfect technique or punish mistakes. And that's huge when you're starting out. Some of the top codger blends for beginners are Sir Walter Raleigh. This comes in a regular or aromatic version. It's one of the most beginner-friendly blends you'll ever find. Mild, slightly nutty burley with just enough sweetness to stay interesting. The aromatic version adds a soft cocoa-like note, but it's not overpowering. It's easy to pack, it lights easy, and it's very forgiving of fast puffing. The second is unfortunately no longer produced. However, there are variations that can be found. This is Prince Albert. Prince Albert is legendary for a reason. It's straightforward, honest tobacco. Slightly sweet, nutty, and dependable. It's the kind of blend you smoke while you're doing chores, out fishing, or sitting on the porch. And that's why beginners love it. Carter Hall. It's one of the smoothest burley blends ever made. Now, this is a blend that I used to smoke when I picked up my first pipe right out of high school. It's got a mild strength, very low bite, and it's a soft sweetness that's easy on the palate. Now, if someone told me they were nervous about tongue bite, Carter Hall would be the first one I would point them to. The next on this list is called Half and Half. It's a little bit more personality. It's a blend of Burley and Virginia, but it's got a light, slightly spicy topping. Half and half gives beginners a chance to experience more complexity without crossing into harsh territory. Now, out of the list of codger blends that we just discussed, I have had all of them. One that was not mentioned is Velvet. Velvet is still readily available, and it is very smooth. I would say it is definitely a beginner blend. It's wonderful. I would say of the codger blends, it is my favorite. I did, however, just pick up some Walter Raleigh aromatic, and it is very nice. But I will say that the Velvet is definitely my favorite out of the codger blends. Now, aside from the codger blends being great beginner blends, there are some newer ones on the market that are just as good, if not better, that are great for a beginner. However, they do tend to be a little bit higher in price. Not saying that that's better quality, price does not always equal quality, but it definitely does give you some getting of your foot in a different pond, so to speak. So let's talk about blends that are beginner friendly, but they are not codger blends. So we're going to go through a few. There's aromatic blends. A couple of my favorites are Peterson Sweet Killarney, readily available in I think it's a 1.5 or 1 3/4 ounce tin. This is made by Peterson Tobacco Company, which is owned by STG, Scandinavian Tobacco Group. And it's very creamy. It's got a vanilla and caramel flavor profile to it. It's fantastic. It smells amazing. And it's generally ready to smoke right out of the tin. The next is from the Captain Black line. Now, the Captain Black line has been around for a long time. Um, the Peterson Sweet Killarney hasn't been around quite as long, but the Captain Black line has. Captain Black is something that you can still get at just about any brick and mortar. Some gas stations may still carry it. I started enjoying this back when Walgreens and the pharmacies still carried Dr. Graybo pipes. So for those of you who remember that, that was quite a while ago. Back when I was fresh out of high school, just starting college. But my favorite Captain Black tobacco, of which there are several, many are still in production. Captain Black Royal for me is for a older tobacco that's not a codger, but it's an aromatic. Captain Black Royal is where it's at for me. Aromatics like these help new pipe smokers build confidence. They're easier to smoke, they smell great, your friends aren't going to get turned off, your family's not going to get turned off and say, oh, that's gross. They smell nice, and they're flavorful, and they're readily accessible, and they're not going to hurt your pocketbook too hard. Moving on, we have Virginia blends. I know Hobbiton Piper, I don't know, Hobbiton Piper might say this is his favorite all time, goat blend, but it's Orlick Golden Sliced. It's readily available. It's got bright citrusy Virginias that taste natural tobacco. It doesn't have, much of a topping. If anything, it's mostly those bright citrusy Virginia notes that you get. I know Hobbiton Piper has a quite a bit of it on hand, from what I understand. He's hoarding it, so to speak. But good for you. Good for you. The next is not as well known. It's readily accessible, but it's more of an obscure um, manufacturer. It's Samuel Gowith's Full Virginia Flake. It's got more body and more richness, but it's still approachable for new pipe smokers. Virginia blends Virginia blends reward attention. If you dry them slightly and take slow sips, you'll get the natural sweetness and the tobacco character that's not masked by any flavorings. So that's why Virginia blends are great for beginners. If you're looking to get away from aromatics and smoke something that's more natural, without any flavors or additives, so to speak. Next in the lineup, we have mild English and Balkan blends. So this is going to include Peterson's standard mixture. It's the same 1 3/4 ounce tin. It's got a red label. And then you got the Balkan Sassini. Now, Balkan Sassini, as far as a Balkan blend, is by far my favorite. If you go to NorthernPiperMN's YouTube channel, there's a video where I do a tin opening and uh, a first packing of the pipe and a first smoke and review it for you. It's fantastic. It brought back a lot of, uh, I guess you could say, memories for me with the olfactory smells. It's fantastic. And the Balkan, the biggest thing about Balkan blends is they do have Latakia, and that comes from the Cyprus region over in the Italy, Greece area. So once you're comfortable with aromatics, and or even if you're just comfortable with packing your pipe and lighting it and keeping it lit, Balkans or English style blends would be the next step. So as far as tobaccos that are beginner friendly, that about does it. There's a plethora of them available on the market. There's so many tobaccos out there. There's one for every person. I guarantee it. Even if you're not a pipe smoker, there's one for every person on the planet who um, would enjoy it. But once you've picked out your tobacco, you've got to have a way to smoke it. So you're going to need a tobacco pipe. There's a huge difference from when you're starting. The right pipe can make a huge difference. Um, there are pipes that you can get for as little as $5 at maybe your brick and mortar might have some, or there's artisan pipes which can run into the thousands of dollars. We're not going to get into really the artisan pipes. In this episode, we're going to keep it to the beginner friendly pipes. The first that you're going to see, you've probably heard a lot. You've seen it with General MacArthur, Meerschaum cob pipes, Missouri Meerschaum, or more readily known as a corn cob pipe. They're affordable, they're generally very durable, they smoke great, and they're very forgiving. They're perfect for tasting different blends because they're cheap, and a lot of times when you have like a briar pipe or say a pipe that's made out of um, pearwood is common. um, you're going to get what's called ghosting of the pipe. So if I were to smoke, say, Balkan Sassini in a pipe, and then switch over to Captain Black or something else that's not maybe a Balkan blend, I would maybe still get some of the flavor of that Balkan Sassini in my pipe because it's a stronger tobacco. It's been in there, it's smoked, it's kind of sort of leached its way a little bit into the wood, and that's what that pipe is going to give off. Now, the next is going to be a briar pipe. I would say maybe 90% of the tobacco pipes that are on the market are mostly made out of briar. And there's different styles of briar, different regions where briar comes from. But briar is a root. It's very, very hard, very durable, but it's very light. So assembly line briars, what I mean by that is these are factory made pipes out of briar. Artisan pipes still use briar, but they're not made in bulk, if you know what I mean. So some of your blends, some of your briar assembly line makers are going to be Savinelli and some Peterson entry models. Now there's other companies that have sort of a assembly line of products, but Savinelli and Peterson are the biggest ones that you're going to come across. So if you want a pipe that's going to grow with you, something that maybe you can pass down, a briar pipe is definitely going to be a good choice. Now, the next one on this list is actually my favorite. Last year, Father's Day 2025, I went to a local antique store and I'm always looking to see what they have for tobacco related products, whether it's old tobacco tins. Sometimes you'll get lucky, you'll find an old tobacco tin of Prince Albert or even Velvet that is an older tin, but it's still sealed. It was never opened. Um, and for someone like me or other collectors, that's gold. But what I'm going to talk about and what I found that Father's Day last year was a set of a falcon pipe. Now, a falcon pipe is you can look them up, but that's an aluminum stem that's got a kind of a plastic or acrylic tip, and it's got along the aluminum stem on the end, it's got a bowl shape that's very shallow. And the cool thing about the falcon pipes is their bowls, their briar bowls, are interchangeable. You can have, I think I have 6 or 7 different bowls, and they all fit my one falcon pipe. So previously, a minute or two ago, when we were talking about ghosting a pipe from different tobacco blends, I can use, say, and this is what I've done. I've got one falcon pipe bowl that I use for my Balkan. I've got one that I use for my Virginias, one that I use for uh, my vapors, my Virginia Perique blends, and so forth, so that I don't get the ghosting. Um, and I did get a good deal on them. It was one Falcon pipe with 6 or 7 bowls, and then it also came with a Viking pipe, which was made by Dr. Grabo back in the day. You can still get the bowls and everything for them; they're still available. But I love my Falcon pipe. The next is going to be church wardens. These have recently been made popular with the Lord of the Rings series. You'll see Gandalf will be smoking a long pipe that kind of goes down to the end of his beard. That's what we call a church warden pipe, or other bent shape pipes. So the thing about church wardens and their long stem is that long stem gives the smoke time to cool, so you get a longer, cooler smoke, which actually does adjust the flavor of the tobacco that you're inhaling into, breathing into your mouth. It does change the flavor profile a little bit. Bent pipes let you keep your hands free, so it gives you. It's great for people who are very contemplative. You like to sit and think. You're a deep thinker. A bent shaped pipe would be great for you. So to end our segment on tobacco pipes, 2 things you want to look out for. Um, I would definitely not recommend buying any pipes online unless you're just going to buy like a cheap corncob pipe, then it doesn't really matter. But if you're going to buy a low level briar pipe or something to start out with, you definitely want to get the pipe in your hand and see how it feels, because not all pipes are made the same. They don't all weigh the same, and they don't all feel the same in your hand. Um, like I said, 90% of the tobacco pipes you're going to encounter on the market are going to be briar, but there are different stem materials. The stem would be the piece between the wood and the tip that goes in your mouth. And there's vulcanite, there's acrylic, there's bakelite, there's a whole bunch of them. So you want to make sure that you actually get that pipe in your hands to make sure that you're very comfortable with the pipe. It should feel like an extension of you, so to speak. And the next thing is you want to look at ease of care. Um, I know Jay Furman, don't hate me for this. Jay doesn't like to clean his pipes. Jay feels that cleaning his pipe is altering the pipe. It's like you've got your grill that you've been using and you don't clean it so often because it's quote unquote seasoned. Jay's pipes are seasoned. I think in one of the previous pipe and tamper episodes, Jay let it slip that he did run a pipe cleaner through his pipe, and I think Bo might have had a heart attack. I don't know. It was a great episode, guys. But you want to make sure that you are prepared to care for your pipe. What I mean by that is pipe cleaners are dirt cheap, easy to clean your pipe. Um, Soak a little bit of it in vodka. People use bourbon or whiskey, and the alcohol helps clean out the pipe from, especially if you're smoking aromatics. You're going to get some sort of, some residual in the pipe stem, and you want to clean that out. And if you have a straight pipe, you may find that if you don't clean it very often, you may end up getting a restriction in your pipe, and you may end up getting what's called a gurgling sound. So, with the aromatics, with them being a wetter type tobacco, a lot of times you may get some moisture condensation in the bowl of your pipe. So that does it for beginner pipe tobaccos and pipe types and recommendations. Uh, Absolutely feel free to hit me up with questions. I'm here for you. I'm on this journey just the same as you are. It's a learning experience. There's so much to learn. It's an ever evolving hobby. I don't like the word hobby because I don't feel that this is a hobby. A hobby is something like fishing or woodworking. I feel like this is more of a lifestyle, um, things that define who we are. I'm a pipe smoker. I'm not going to apologize for that. It's part of who I am. So I would say that a few questions that I see a lot from new pipe smokers. Number one being, why does my pipe go out so often? Slow puffs, even your initial light, do a slow puff. Don't rush the packing of the pipe. I've heard it said that your packing of your pipe, you take a pinch of tobacco, it should be, you know, uh, baby bear, mama bear, and then papa bear, as far as how much pressure you put in with each pinch of tobacco, and that's how you want to pack it. And when you're packing your pipe, it's important to draw through the pipe to make sure that you're not packing it too tight. Otherwise, you're just going to want to start all over again because you're going to get frustrated. You want to make sure you have a good draw. It should feel kind of like sucking through a straw. That's what your airflow should be like. Um, the second question is the difference between straight Virginias and aromatics. The simplest way to describe it is Virginias taste more like the tobacco itself, the pure tobacco leaf, whatever, whether it's you know Latakia or Perique or Virginias or dark fired Kentucky. This is just the tobacco taste. It's generally sweeter with Virginias, and sometimes you may get like a grassy, kind of earthy flavor. Aromatics are topped with flavorings. Sometimes they're called casings, but vanilla, caramel, apple, maple, rum, whiskey, just to name a few. But there's so many different ones out there. Like I said, there's a pipe tobacco out there for everybody on the planet. I'm sure of it. The last question I'm going to go over. There's more than this, but the last question I'm going to go over is people ask how you store your tobacco. Now, if you get your tobacco in a tin, so that is um, a 1 3/4 ounce tin. Sometimes it's a 2 ounce tin or more if you get like the Captain Black and whatnot. But if you get it in the tin, you can leave it in the tin as long as you don't open it. Once you open it, time's ticking. You need to get that into a mason jar with a sealed lid if you want to keep it long term. If you plan to quote unquote cellar it, we'll go over that in another episode. But you want to put it in a mason jar so it doesn't dry out, especially with aromatics. English blends, Balkan blends, they will age. Um, they'll get better, like fine wine. But aromatics, because of the flavorings and the casings, they will dry out and you will lose your flavoring. So that's a wrap for what's happening in the pipe tobacco world in 2026. A look at some great beginner blends and beginner friendly pipes to get you started. In upcoming episodes, we'll dive deeper with blend reviews, pipe care tutorials, and guest chats with seasoned pipe smokers. Because this hobby is all about community, craftsmanship, and those quiet moments that make life richer. If you want to get a hold of us with some questions or comments, you can reach us many different ways. NorthernPiperMN on Instagram, NorthernPiperMN on YouTube, and NorthernPiperMN at gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. Go slow, smoke easy, and we'll catch you next time.